Say there are 3 people on a boat. As they depart from shore, they begin to notice their ship is taking on water. So how do they respond? One stops for a moment and starts thinking of causes. How could this have happened? When did the damage take place? Another starts to panic and proceeds to hyperventilate, as they're not sure how to process the emergency. The last one begins searching for the hole and starts to patch it, then starts to redirect the others on the plan to get back to shore. Let's try a different scenario. 3 students are assigned a project that is due in 1 month. One planned way too many activities to do over the course of the month that they only started on the assignment until the night before, winding up with a C. Another spends the entire month feeling dread over the deadline, slowly making progress until getting it finished with a day to spare, making a B. The remaining student crafts an efficient outline and plans what they're going to accomplish over the course of the month, to steadily complete the assignment with several days left to make finishing touches, passing with an A+. And let's do one more for good measure. A woman is going through a divorce and is reaching out to her 3 close friends. The first one she speaks to responds with a logical perspective and inquired strongly over what caused her husband to cheat, which, while relevant, left her feeling pretty upset. Her next friend was pushing her to jump back in the dating scene, which, while supportive, left her feeling dismissed. Her third friend gave her space to speak and ask questions when relevant. They dug deeper into how she felt and made sure she got the chance to vent her frustrations. She left the conversation much more relieved. Actors, feelers, and thinkers. When given an obstacle in life, what are you more likely to do first? Think of a solution to the problem, act and respond accordingly, or feel the relevant emotion? There's a balance of all these things in our decision-making in our day-to-day lives. Sometimes it's really not as important to spend precious brainpower thinking about how to respond to a text versus how you're going to complete a set of long-term goals. Just like in an emergency situation, it's better to act first than to panic and risk other people's lives, like in the case of a house fire. And the same applies to feeling emotions, as when you lose a loved one, the process may be slow, but if you avoid feeling grief, it bottles up inside of you waiting to be stirred. Yes, it's true that we need a balance of the 3 forces. Most of our problems come when we bury ourselves in one rather than finding harmony between all 3. This is why I think there are only 3 kinds of people. First, let's talk about thinkers. Thinkers tend to struggle with feeling or acting. They're the type of people to be rational and try their best to have a clear mind. If you click this video, you are very likely a thinker. I might even argue you're an overthinker. Maybe you tend to ruminate on past experiences, or you're the type of person to get really anxious and freeze in dire circumstances. You may tell yourself, I don't know why I get like this, when anything stressful happens. But it's precisely your approach that stops you from seeing the bigger picture. Not every problem you have is a puzzle to crack. When faced with adversity, you will solve it with whatever tool you have. In your case, if you approach it with your mind and thoughts, you try to interpret the problem as though it's a logical statement to be deciphered. But tragedy is undecipherable. Yes, you should try to find meaning out of negative experiences, but sometimes things are just sad, as simple as that sounds. Sometimes the only solution you have is to cry. That's what your emotions are for. It's actually more logical and efficient to use them in this case. Even if you could use this time to be more productive, that's just a trap of the mind to try to get you to use your thoughts again, when that's the wrong tool for the job. And for the non-workaholic thinkers, you may not be sure what actions to take in your life. Maybe everything feels aimless and uncertain. Maybe you hate your job, maybe you're lonely, or maybe it feels like no matter what you do, you're screwed anyways. It's better to just spend your time internally instead of interacting with the world around you. But this too is a terrible idea. In doing nothing, you're still making a decision, and that's to refuse to change. When you don't act, you live your life passively. You can't make things better if you decide that you have no ability to affect the world around you. You may not be able to control everything, but you can live a more proactive life if you decide to take a risk instead of staying in the cycle of thought. Presence and mindfulness sit at the top of what makes a better thinker. You can be in the moment, not actively thinking in the future. And you can enjoy what you're doing and who you're with. Second, let's talk about feelers. These are the people around us that tend to be more sensitive. They approach the world with their hearts on their sleeves and emotions at their fingertips. If you didn't relate to being an overthinker, my guess is that you're emotional, or more of a feeler. These people can struggle with thinking unbiased or acting in irrational ways based off their current mood. Oftentimes, their emotions can feel heavier and more debilitating. It can be exhausting living a life where your sensitivity seems to be set to the max. Just like thinking, we need our emotions to guide us on what it is we value, but that ability needs to be focused, or it runs the risk of dooming a person to being an unstable wreck. Feelers tend to live in ways that are fairly freeform. They're temperamental in their thoughts and go based on whatever feels right in that moment. This makes it challenging to interact with them long term, as it seems they are constantly changing their mind, when really, it's that they have an inconsistent sense of self. When you only think based off what you're currently feeling, you can have a wide range of identities. Happy you, depressed you, etc. Maybe you interacted with somebody and they seem to be upset with you. This elicits thoughts that you're unworthy or that you should feel shame. These unchecked emotions can also cause you to act in ways that are self-destructive. Maybe I shouldn't have yelled at that person, but it felt right in the moment. Or maybe you should hold off on telling the person you just started dating a day ago that you love them. It's critical to take even a small moment to think to yourself if you're doing something that aligns with your values. and not with how you're feeling. Sometimes when we're upset, we want to be violent or lash out, and in many cases, this is inappropriate and is unjustifiable as a response. What helps feelers the most is distress tolerance and detachment. They have to learn how to deal with stressful situations and how to expose themselves to environments that are uncomfortable, because an emotional person is excessively present. And their biggest hurdle to overcome is to detach themselves from their emotional stressors and to live a life less reactively and more consciously. Third, let's talk about actors. These are the type of people to jump first and consider the consequences never. They may be more impulsive, impatient, but also courageous and innovative. My guess is that this is the smallest demographic of people who are actually watching this video. Without the burden of thoughts and emotions to get in the way, the actor doesn't worry about being in the past, present, or future. They kind of just exist. Their issue is that they lack the drive to reflect, so they can exist in their own bubble and behave in ways that are disrespectful or inconsiderate. But a misbehaving actor is tricky to deal with because it's less that they're choosing to disrespect you, and it's more that they didn't even consider you when doing whatever it is they decided to do. Because they go with the flow and lack the ability to sit still, this is why they overcommit to multiple activities and spread themselves thin. Since they're used to overactivity, it bothers them not having a full calendar. But because they get no break, this means that they're doing everything with less energy, and worse results than if they focused on singular things. They even get frustrated that others don't act like they do. Why can't everyone make up their minds? This means that interpersonal skills and meditation are the things they need to help better work through their problems. The ability to understand the consequences of their actions and to see things through other people's perspective is important, and helps upgrade an actor's power from an unfocused flashlight to a steady laser beam. TLDR, act less, think more, and don't be a jerk. In reality, we have all three of these parts inside of us. No one is really 100% a thinker, feeler, or an actor, and we need all three parts to excel in our lives. The reason we have more than one option to solve our problems is because not every tool is right for the job. Once we understand that, we can take the necessary steps to better ourselves and make the lives of others better as well. But what about you? Which of the three do you identify with? Leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.